guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. I am here with the big guy as usual, Matt.
Per use.
How's it going, Matt?
Well, you know, Ben, I'm doing absolutely fantastic today.
I heard that.
Yep.
There's somebody told me that once,
Yep.
and it was you.
It was.
That's fantastic. Before we get in, we always, I always like to give updates,
Right?
right? My kids are doing great. Everybody's wondering how my kids are doing great. I was telling you about my youngest wants to make a movie.
Right. Which I love that.
And I just realized after telling you the story, everybody got a part but me. I didn't. Everybody's a transformer, but I'm not. I didn't get a transform in anything. Who
Right.
knows what that means?
Right.
Well, let psychologists figure that out.
Yep. He
40
can take
years
care of
from
that
now.
with his therapist.
Awesome, Matt. What are we talking about today, man?
So we've been hearing a lot from people in mastermind groups and stuff like that about interviewing, right? Things are going well. People are moving around and everything. And so we're going to dig back into interviewing just a little bit and go into some pieces of it that we've talked about in other podcasts, but it might be time to kind of dig into a couple of those components because some people are starting to interview. So we want to make sure we're helping out with it.
I love it. Well, guys, before we get started and dive into that, make sure you go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Check out all the cool things we have going on. And make sure wherever you're listening to this that you're hitting that follow button and that subscribe button. We really appreciate that. And that honestly lets the algorithm just know that we're doing a good job. And if you think we're doing a good job, hit those things. Right? We want to earn it.
Right.
Right.
Completely agree.
We want to earn it. Right.
Yeah.
So if you think we're doing a good job, do that for us. And that helps keep our content toward the top of the list. We like being number one. So, Matt.
Yep.
Dress correctly.
Absolutely.
Right. So is this like this whole podcast is going to be like, how to tie a tie?
No, we're going to skip how to tie a tie today.
Okay.
Because not everybody on their interview is gonna wear a tie, right? So, because it has to match, right? There's some companies out there that absolutely a tie and a suit is how they need to show up. There's other places that are on the beach that
Tank top,
if you show up,
flip-flops.
that's exactly right. If you show up the wrong way, everybody's gonna get the wrong impression, right?
That's my people.
So that's what you have to do is you have to make sure you dress correctly and outdress, just like if you're going on a listing appointment, just like if you're meeting buyers, you outdress them by just a little bit, right?
Exactly.
You need to be a little bit better on how you're dressed than them for sure. Okay. And then, so part of that also, we talk about, cleaning up your curb appeal and everything. We talk about, all
Clean
of
up
it.
your damn curb appeal.
Right. We talk about all that. So make sure the office is dressed up as well. Right.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that it's cleaned up and everything, and make sure that, things aren't laying out and just get dressed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So being a broker, let's put it like this. So being a broker, if the seller doesn't clean their house up before the showing, do you let them get away with it? No.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
How am I supposed to sell this?
How am I supposed to sell this? That's exactly right. So the same thing goes for you and how you're dressed and
You
how
got that
prepared
right.
you are for your meeting and all that
How am
kind
I
of stuff.
supposed to sell this?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yep.
If you want your listing to look like a model home, then when you're recruiting, that has to
You
look
need
like
to look like a model.
well, close. Your office needs to look like it's dressed up like a model.
Yeah.
And if you're meeting somebody by Zoom and stuff like that, right? Be careful of what's in the background, right?
Oh, you know it.
So there's a lot of little things to just making sure that stuff is dressed up the way it's supposed to. The key thing there is just be prepared on it.
Yeah, completely agree with that. So, let's say you have that interview, right?
Yep.
And they're coming in. There's definitely some brokers out there that are like, I want to make sure they understand like that I'm important.
Right.
Right, let's put them in the Let's put them in the lobby for a couple minutes.
Right.
Make them sweat it out.
I sure hope that's not what's happening. I sure hope that's not what's happening.
What should they do, Matt?
I think that kind of stuff does happen, Ben. I'm hoping it's not for that reason.
I know it happens.
All right. So
know
yeah, we know it happens. But part of the reason why it happens is the broker is unplugging from the million things that they're doing. Right? They've got 96 things going on, and then the person shows up 5 minutes early or 10 minutes early or something like that, and they're still wrapping up a phone call and all that type of stuff. That can't be avoided, right? You're not going to slam down the phone on your agent, that's right.
It.
But that's why your staff needs to be involved. That's why your staff needs to be engaged.
Yep.
Have you went over with your staff how they're supposed to greet a recruit? You have to make sure you have a plan of how that's going to happen. When that person walks in the front door, what is that greeting going to look like? What are you going to say? What kind of conversations are you going to have? You need to have that laid out as part of your plan ahead of time.
Yeah.
And they need to be greeted immediately.
Yeah.
Even if it's, even if, you're in the middle of that important phone call of whatever it is, and you're the only person at the office, and you hear the door chime, and you stick your head out and everything, and you see that it's the recruit and everything, you tell the person on the phone, hang on 1 second, you mute them, and you say, hey, listen, I'm wrapping this up. I apologize. We're going to be with you in just a second. Would you like a coffee or water? I'll grab that for you in just a minute. You have a greeting for them. You have a conversation. You acknowledge, because at that point, they're getting an impression of how important that whole conversation is to you.
Yes.
And so you have to make sure that they understand that it is that important.
And how important they are.
Absolutely.
To you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And smile.
Yeah.
Right? Be happy and excited that they're enthusiastic that they're there, for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've seen Matt smile.
Twice.
Yeah. So it can be done by any of you.
Right. Anybody
right?
can work
I'm
to
just saying, if he can do it,
anybody
you
y'all
guys
can do it. Absolutely.
Right? His frown muscles are ripped. I've never said that before. That's funny though. So, part of that, greeting them immediately,
Mm-hmm.
and, making sure that there's a process, that you're
Absolutely.
going through to show that, listen, I'm prepared for this. Part of that is just being punctual.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you have a plan and you know what you're going to go through on your interview, and you have a process that you're going to go through, you're excited to get started.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what you're going to talk about, if you're not sure, if you're nervous about it, if you're anxious, if you haven't planned it out, you're not excited to get started, and that's going to come through in that conversation.
Yeah, you know it.
So, a lot of times, somebody would come in and, come into the office, and I had like 96 other things to do, and I would be just like, man, not right now. This is like the worst time right?
Yeah.
And but that goes back to you got to tie the knot on your belt, right? You got to get your head on right. It ain't show friends, it's show business. Get ready and you got to get going.
Exactly.
So you got to get your head on right. It makes it so much easier to do that when in the beginning, when I didn't have my recruiting interviews planned out, right? When there wasn't a process, 4 steps to it, all that kind of stuff and everything. When people showed up, it was almost like every time was a new time to be anxious about what was going to happen in that meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Once I had a plan, even if there was 50 other things going on, when the person walked in the door, I was like, okay, I've got a plan. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know I know the direction the conversation is going to go. I know how this is going to flow.
Absolutely.
I felt a lot better about it. I was more enthusiastic just because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to make sure is that we start and end on time. And the way that you do that is by having a plan of what you're going to go through in your interview process.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't think because the agent's coming to you, to your office to interview with you, that you can't be late.
Oh yes,
right, because you're there.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right?
Great point.
Yeah. So, and next thing we're going to talk about is really practicing your answers.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I love this. I love seeing this on the show notes because too many times we're practicing our questions.
Right. Absolutely. And you should. Right.
You should. Of course.
Yeah. You should practice your questions, but you should also practice your answers. And so you should be a great interviewer is how it should be. Right.
Yeah.
So think of whatever interview you've watched whenever there was an incredible person interviewing someone else. Think about the engagement that they had going back and forth. Think about how good you felt like the questions were. Feel like, when the person that was being interviewed gave answers and you were just like, oh, that's an incredible answer. And then the person that was doing the interview had another in-depth question that kind of dug into it. You were like, man, this is great. This is enjoyable. You probably got lost in that interview.
Yes.
That's what you want to have happen. And the only way that can happen is if your answers are practiced, okay? If your questions are practiced, and then we'll go into one more thing in just a second to how to make sure that happens. But absolutely, you have to practice your answers. And what answers do you practice? So some of it is about who you are and what you are and your office and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Absolutely, you have to do that. But you also have to be prepared to deal with objections, okay? Absolutely. And you have to know the difference between objections and conditions, right? We went over that in the last Master Recruiting series. We talked about objections versus conditions, and a lot of people were very appreciative afterwards going through that because we kind of outlined how you can handle, that from 2 different directions, basically, making sure that you're approaching it the right way, right? So you have to make sure that you practice your answers for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. Whenever you get those objectives, it's really easy to be like, immediately like, man, this is going great. And then the objections start coming and you can almost see it in like the body language. Like,
deflate, yeah.
Okay, here it comes. Here are all the things. Here, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, or maybe you start stuttering through your words. That kind of leads us, a little bit into our next point, which is, man, you got to stay positive, right? Not only through that the objections, but when you're talking about the industry, when you're talking about the market, if you're just talking about the competition out in the in your marketplace,
right?
It's a breath of fresh air for an agent to be around someone who's just
absolutely
uplifting and positive.
Yeah. So part of the reason why we practice our answers and we handle objections the way that we do is because we're going to come across competent. Okay. And so being able to handle, and so let me say this, when we're talking about practicing our answers and handling objections, it's not about a script necessarily of how to of exactly what to say when you're handling the objection.
Yeah.
More importantly, it is a dialogue that allows you to isolate the objection. Yeah. That is extremely important in that situation. Okay, so it's not just about, they said this and I got a little defensive, and when I got a little defensive, this is how I answered or responded to that. It's not about you not being defensive because you have these magical words to say. That's not what I mean by practice your answers and by handle the objection. I mean make sure that you isolate that objection, so when you're having that conversation with someone, you can actually make sure that really is the objection, because otherwise you're just chasing things that they're saying and not realizing you're dealing with the real reason. And that is why, like you just said, that's why we get into that part of not being positive. That's why, somebody says something and we think our best way to handle that objection is by to talk down on somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I heard you guys didn't have a good commission split. Oh yeah. Well, our commission split's better than their commission split. And, the reason why that happens is because, I'm a broker and I've got to make a living too. Right. And all of a sudden you get into that whole defensive thing and you're not staying positive and everything. There's a reason why they're asking about that. There's a reason why they're saying that. For you to get to the bottom of that and staying positive while you're doing that, you look composed and intelligent as a broker if you do that.
Yeah.
That allows you to own a certain place in their head when it comes to being a guide that they need in their business.
Hey guys, this episode of the Brokerpreneur Podcast is brought to you by the Speculo Group. The Speculo Group is the turnkey solution for agent and brokerage lead generation. With a focus on generating the highest quality leads from platforms like Google, YouTube, Facebook, and more, the Speculo Group is your one-stop shop to dominating your local market and beyond. Visit their website for more information at thespeculogroup.com.
Yeah, I was I'm trying to go skirt this without giving away too much. Let's say I was at a business, and I was talking to the owner. We had a little bit of an issue at the business, let's say, and what the way that they came back was, well, this happens in all businesses, and it's way worse in a lot of others.
Uh-huh.
And I kept thinking to myself,
That's
the solution, right? That's the solution here.
Yeah.
And
that's your approach. We don't suck as bad as everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I would say. And that's exactly what it feels like when you start just downplaying your competition.
Right. Absolutely.
You're just like, listen, I can't tell you how great I am. I can only tell you how good I am compared to or making others look worse.
Right.
And so it's just it's never a good look.
Yeah. Yeah. You calling yourself up from the bottom and still looking like you're on the bottom is never a good look.
Yeah, exactly. It's like wearing an orange shirt and a different colored orange pants. You just can't look good. Man, there's no way to look good. So, sorry, Tennessee fans.
I knew that was. I wasn't going to go there. But I was like,
okay. So I already broke this. Next to last one that we're talking about, because I did get a super important text.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
From somebody that I've been trying to get in touch with this morning.
Yep.
And I want to make sure I got back to her. But turn your cell phone off.
Yep. Turn your cell phone off. This is a big one, right? And we all so things happen. And we all have that reason, and I'm going to pick on you for just a second. You just said a super important text to get that back and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Completely agree and completely understand what that text was all about. I get that. But what that says whenever you're in an interview is something is more important than you.
Yeah.
Something is literally, we're having a conversation. You took time out. We're sitting here, but something is more important than you. And I'll tell you that there's a right way to turn that phone off, right? And the right way to turn that phone off is to at the beginning of the interview to go ahead. Let me. I know this meeting is important to both of us. Let me go ahead and put this on. Let me go ahead and put this on vibrate, and then set the phone aside. Because to me, that's that person now, they're going to say something like, "Oh, I already turned mine on. I turned mine down already." You're going to be like, "Yeah, rock on," or they're going to say, "Yeah, I appreciate that." Oh, be careful.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to say anything, and then 3 minutes later, their phone's going to ring, right?
Yeah.
Or they're going to say, "I'm waiting for an important call," or "I'm going to right?" So all of a sudden, you get to understand a little bit more about them and how they feel about what's going on in that meeting, right? Because if they say, "Hey, I've got an offer that's waiting on this and that and all that kind of stuff," and if a phone call comes in, I have to grab that phone call. Man, I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, I want them to be able to take that call, because that means that they're prioritizing and taking care of their business and all that kind of stuff. But if you turn your phone down or off and you say, "Hey, I'm going to turn it down or off," sitting in front of them, and they don't acknowledge that, and then they take a call or a text later,
Yeah.
man, that's not somebody that I want in my office. I mean, it might fit anybody else's office and rock on. I love that, but that's not somebody that I want in my office. The entire time we're going through all of this, I'm getting to know them and they're getting to know me, and we're making sure we're a fit.
Yeah.
And that's something with me that I'd have a hard time, making it a fit.
Yeah.
So
Does that mean we're not a fit?
What's that?
Because I did that text. Does that mean we're not
Well, Ben, it's a little late if we're not a fit, buddy. We got a number one rated podcast.
Were you offended?
Was I offended? No.
Did your feelings get hurt?
No, my feelings didn't get hurt.
Did you, be honest, did you feel like, man?
Yeah, I feel like you shouldn't have picked that phone up.
No. Man,
you said be honest.
No, I said I didn't finish my question.
Okay, then I take that back.
Ouch, guys. Did you feel like, man, he must be important?
No, I didn't feel like that.
That's
No,
what I was
I didn't
going
feel
for.
like that.
That's what I was going for.
That's the look you were going for?
Yeah.
So on a podcast, it's no big deal, right? But we're on YouTube too, in case you guys are on YouTube.
Yeah. If you guys are on YouTube,
you saw it.
Apologies.
You saw it all unload.
For you guys who were just listening, you didn't know if I wouldn't have told you.
Oh, wow.
They know I'm joking. I love you guys. You know it.
Wow.
So last but certainly not least,
Right. Moving on.
go 3 deep.
Yep. So you hear us talk about this all the time. I can't tell you how important this is in a conversation. You ask a question. Usually the third time that you ask about that specific question, that specific topic, and you get them to go in, that's when they're going to kind of unveil.
Yeah.
That's when they're gonna peel that last layer of the onion back, and that's when it's gonna come out, right?
Yeah.
And so going 3 deep means that you're focusing on ensuring that you really understand the answer to the question that was asked.
Yeah.
You make sure that you're going to get into, whenever you go 3 deep on something, you're going to make sure that you're really getting into why, not just what, but why it is that they feel like that is important in their business.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you really have the care and concern to go 3 deep on that, you're going to learn something about them, that the problems that they have, what solution you really have to that, and you're going to be able to, again, when you peel that layer back on that onion, you're going to be able to really help get to the bottom of what it is that you're trying to help them accomplish in their business.
Yeah. Or if you have the solution.
That's right. Correct. You might not have it. That's right.
Yeah. And if you don't, what's the right thing to do, Matt?
Let them go, man. Cut them loose.
Let them go.
If you don't have the solution.
Unless you're willing to get the solution.
Unless you're willing to get the solution. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would completely agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree with that.
I was. You said exactly what I wanted you to say.
Right.
Right. We had telepathy.
Right.
And but then I was thinking, I was like, well, some people might be like, man, I really want this person. I'll go get that solution.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
Well, guys, anything you want to add before I put a little bow on this?
Yeah, just make sure that you go back and listen to this podcast a couple of times. Tune back into it. Right. If you didn't take notes, take a couple of notes.
Yeah.
And rehearse this before your interview.
Yeah.
Just go over it really quick. We talk about this in the mastermind classes. Run through what it is that you should do before your interview to make sure that your interview goes the way it's supposed to. And this is a great checklist for that.
You know what would be cool if we made like a piece of like wall art that didn't say like dress correctly and greet them immediately, that kind of thing, but it had like
A code.
a code
Right.
right?
Maybe it could be one of those pictures that if you stare really hard at it, it would change and you'd be able to
you
see it.
cross your eyes.
And you just have to look over the person's shoulder when you stare.
Yeah, then the person's like,
you're
man,
creeping me out, dude.
what are you doing? This is super weird.
This just got, are you staring at me or are you staring at that funny picture on the wall?
you cross your eyes and the unicorn comes out and it also says,
And it says, dress correctly.
And it says dress correctly. Then all of a sudden you start like adjusting your shirt. Yeah, but yeah, I'm going to think about that, guys. I'm going to think about something that you can get and put on your wall, and it's going to remind you each one of these things through your interviews to just
nice.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah,
That'd be cool. Well, anyway, guys. Appreciate you so much. You know we're so grateful for every single one of you. This podcast would not be anything without you. I guess it'd be something. It'd just be me and Matt talking to each other.
Right. And we had a banner day the other day with podcast downloads. We had 300 and something downloads on one day. Is that right?
Yeah, well, now you make it sound little. It's 242.
242.
Yeah,
that's right.
242 on this past Monday.
Right.
And so
in a single day, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love you guys listening in.
Yeah, that's our biggest one day, for sure. So we're super grateful for that.
And the Monday is historically our worst day, right? I mean, it's the day that there's the least amount of podcast downloads. So we love it. We appreciate it, and we're super grateful for the whole audience. So
yeah, you know that. Well, guys, wherever you're listening to this, whether it be your bathtub, and I'm joking. Whether it be, I was going to switch it up a little bit. Whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm so sorry that I sent a text.
You busted them.
I sent a text. Gosh, I thought I would get away with it.
Nope.
If it wasn't for these meddling kids.
If it wasn't for literally the topic that we were on today,
Yeah, like
you literally check it on the day.
4 notes later, don't do what Ben did.
That's right.
All right, whatever. My bad. Now I'll know for next time. That's why I need that sheet. That's why I need that thing.
That's why you need that 3D unicorn rendering.
Yeah, exactly. I'll start
Let me write down 3D unicorn.
Yeah. That'll be a great reminder. A week from now, we'll have no idea what that means.
Right.
But make sure you hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside it. You get notified every time we drop a new episode. Go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com and check out the free demo that we have of the Brokerpreneur Fast Track. It's right there on the homepage. We'd love for you to take a sneak peek at that and let us know what you think. And then also just remember, today's Friday, so this is going to be a little bit too late. But next Friday, you can come to the Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. This is a free mastermind that Matt and I have every single Friday from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. And it is just for any broker, owner, manager, recruiter, within a company that would like to attend. If you would like to attend, gosh, just send me an email directly, ben@prospectboomerang.com, and I'll make sure that I get that invite to you. If you go and take the sneak peek, you'll get the invite that way as well.
Yep.
So
perfect.
Beyond that, guys, we do these for one reason and one reason alone.
Because we want to be part of your win.
Yeah. My phone vibrated 7 times after we talked about that.
Right, and you didn't.
And I
you
didn't touch it. I didn't touch it.
Good for you, Ben.
Yeah. I'm on to it right now. See you guys.
See you.